Mr. President, we are going through one of the most difficult and painful periods in American history, and millions of Americans are wondering what is happening to our country. Behind the curtain of spin and propaganda and political attacks, here's what I believe is happening. The rules of the economic game in this country are increasingly being rigged to provide unfair advantage to the wealthy and well-connected, and to take unfair advantage of regular folks and families. America has always promised a straight deal, and that straight deal for many Americans is getting harder and harder to find. Let me say that I am relentlessly proud to be an American. I grew up in the foreign service of this country, surrounded by families who put public service and pride in this country ahead of their comfort, of their convenience, even of their safety and their family's safety. I am absolutely convinced of American exceptionalism. I have seen it, and I have lived it. And that is why I am so upset to see our country in the shape that it's in today. Our founding fathers changed the world when they set in place our finely balanced system of government, illuminated by the clear and guaranteed rights of the American people. But we are squandering that inheritance. Our government isn't working, our rights are being undermined, and it is the American people who are paying the price. They're paying the price because too often they're not getting a straight deal anymore. So let's look at some of the places where the deal is rigged, where special interests get special deals, and where the irregular American family doesn't get a straight deal. Big multi-state banks are allowed to charge middle-class families 30% credit card interest rates that are likely illegal under the state laws where that family lives. And senators in this chamber who are ardent states' rights federalists in every other circumstance have no complaint when their state law is overruled and overborne by the big banks. Students with college loans who now carry $1 trillion of debt, and families with home mortgages are denied the privileges every corporate borrower gets to seek bankruptcy protection against their debt when they are in over their head. Our individual tax system allows the wealthiest and highest income Americans to pay lower tax rates than middle-class wage earners pay, or even hide their income in offshore tax havens and pay no tax at all. And the corporate tax system allows international corporations to route their profits through foreign countries and through tax shelters to pay little or no tax in this country. When you drill down to cases, GE, General Electric, on billions of dollars in profits, paid little or no federal income tax. When you pull up to look system-wide, even though corporations are richer than ever, American people now contribute $5 for every $1 that corporations contribute to sustaining our country's revenues. It used to be 1-to-1. For every $1 that corporations contributed, American people contributed $1. There was an even sharing of our nation's revenue needs. But for 75 years now, it has been steadily sliding, and now it is 5-to-1 against ordinary Americans and in favor of corporations. The wealthy elite who make their fortunes in the marketplace don't protect and honor the marketplace. They try to rig the game. even when it puts the marketplace itself at risk. And when that requires everybody else to come to their rescue, they show no shame and little gratitude and go right back to work gaming the system. Those who become CEOs extract from their companies ridiculous amounts of compensation. CEO pay is up in my lifetime from 40 times the average wage of the employee to 400 times the average wage. These CEOs even extract princely compensation when they fail. The big polluters have got one party denying science entirely, denying the plain evidence of carbon pollution all around us, and spinning the phony theory that the costs of controlling pollution are a burden on the economy, when they're actually a huge net gain for our country. A party that used to proudly carry the banner of conservation and environmental protection is now reduced to serving corporate spin masters with phony fabrications, and it's the middle-class families that pay the price. The appointees of one party on the Supreme Court by a bare 5-4 majority are willing to overturn precedent and flout the rules of judicial decision-making to decree something really novel and remarkable: that corporations are people, and that money is speech, and that therefore our precious constitutional rights to free speech as American people give corporations a right to spend as much money as they please, even anonymously, in American elections. International corporations with no loyalty to any flag or nation, but with virtually unlimited money, may now drown out the voices of regular people, regular families in our American democracy. CEOs get to use the corporate megaphone, amplified by the corporate treasury, to drown out their employees' voices. Just one big corporation with just 5% of one quarter's profits could match the entire political spending of both presidential campaigns in the last election. Our Constitution and Bill of Rights established the jury, not once, but 3 separate times, as an important institution of freedom in our system of democracy. De Tocqueville, one of the great historians and commentators on the American system of government, called the American jury one of the forms of the sovereignty of the people. And big corporations go to court all the time and fight it out before a jury when they want to. But over and over, if you're a middle-class family, in contracts that you can't negotiate or control, in fine print you probably never even read, your credit card company, your cell phone company, the companies you do business with, quietly take away your right to go against them before an American jury. And over again, those same Supreme Court judges who decided a corporation was a person have let them. You have to go instead to something called arbitration instead of a constitutional American jury. And to give you an idea of how arbitration works, for a long time, the biggest arbitration company in the country was a racket rigged to rule against the consumer, and it had to be shut down by legal actions by our state attorneys general. Add it all up, all those different areas that I mentioned, and it's a lot of changes since my childhood. And it's a lot of changes in how our country runs. And it's all in the same direction. Special deals and special tax rates and special rules that help big corporations and people who are as wealthy as big corporations, and that leave out regular people who don't have masses of money. Rules that allow corporations to intrude into our public discourse in this democracy and drown out people's voices through mighty corporate megaphones amplified by money, and lies and nonsense cooked up in corporate spin factories being treated as fact, obtaining acceptability by how often the lies are repeated, thanks to money, money, money. Under all that money, what is drowning is the sense that we are all in this together as Americans. That one of the things that America actually stands for in this world is that we are fair with each other, that we get a straight deal, and that we give each other a straight deal. That's one of the ways that we as America set an example in this world, an example of being fair. There are plenty of countries in the world whose internal political and economic systems amount to a racket rigged for the benefit of their rich and powerful, where farmers and workers and ordinary families get screwed and the wealthy skim all the cream. Some of these countries are so bad we call them kleptocracies. The world is full of that. It has been the pride and joy of America that we are not like that. It has been our message to the world that it doesn't have to be like that. But now it is looking more and more that we actually are becoming just like that. So what can we do about it? What can we do to make sure Americans are getting a straight deal in all of this? I propose these things. 1, big banks should have to follow the state laws just like local banks do, and just like you and I do. No more going to South Dakota and marketing from there credit cards with 30% interest rates that violate the laws of your home state. 2, if big corporations can restructure all their debts in bankruptcy court, so should students and families be able to. No second-class citizenship for those who borrowed college loans and home mortgages. 3, amend the Constitution to make it clear that corporations aren't people. Never were, never could be. The good Lord just did not make it that way. And make it crystal clear that corporations can't spend money in American elections anonymously or through phony shell organizations. If big oil wants to influence American elections, Americans should know it's big oil. 4, straighten out our tax systems. And until we do, put in a minimum tax for ultra-high income earners that is at least at the rate that ordinary American tax-paying families pay. And while we're at it, put in a minimum corporate tax rate that's at least half of what average corporations pay. No corporation that is making millions or billions of dollars should get away with paying nothing in income tax. 5, shut down the offshore tax havens and charge companies a CEO pay surtax on CEO compensation that is more than 100 times their average worker's compensation. 6, make polluters pay the actual costs of their pollution. Why should a polluting company be able to push onto all of the rest of us the costs of their pollution? Why should American families bear that polluting corporation's cost? Economics tells us that should be part of the company's cost of doing business. 7, no more corporate tax deductions for offshoring American jobs, and no more favoring of offshore corporate income derived from what used to be American jobs. And 8, take out of those take it or leave it consumer contracts the provisions that take away in the fine print your right as an American to go before an American jury as the Constitution and Bill of Rights promises, whenever you have a grievance or have been harmed. None of these things, none of those 8 things that I've just mentioned, ask anything of anyone that isn't fair. And most of them simply ask that ordinary Americans get the same deal, or at least no worse of a deal than special Americans get and big corporations get. This all does no more than put people on the same level, or at least under the same rules, as the rich and powerful. When someone is getting a better deal than you just because of who they are, you are not getting a straight deal. When someone is taking advantage of you because you are small and easy to take advantage of, you are not getting a straight deal. And when the rules of the game are rigged to help the winners win and to make you a loser, you are not getting a straight deal. And Mr. President, it is time we started giving the people of America a straight deal around here. I thank the President. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.